I can do a quick Zoom.
There's YouTube.
Are we live?
Okay, I'm gonna set it up, send it right now.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
All right. If you can hear me on this, for example, Ms. Henderson, Ms. Sproul,
Cover extension because I'm on a Zoom.
others, I'm going to ask you to log out and go to the YouTube feed. It's now up and running, but we have a limited number of licenses. And so if you are not one of the courtroom devices, I need you to go to the YouTube feed, which as of 30 seconds ago is up and running. I've confirmed that. But we can't support technically all the folks who dialed in on the Zoom feed. Don't log off till you get your YouTube feed. I want to make sure it's working. But if you can see it on YouTube, then I'm going to ask you to leave the Zoom call. You got to speak louder.
About the hardest decision
Your YouTube channel.
They're not using it or they don't know it?
They don't know.
Okay.
People from the class office on
Okay.
the court website.
So you go to the Superior Court website and there's a link on there for the YouTube feeds, and it's the Judge McBurney YouTube feed. I'll go there now, see what that looks like. Live hearing, so it's the third tab, and you click on McBurney 1D. And I can see us, there we are. All right, so please go there, thank you. Hello, Judge.
Hello. Just check things out.
How are we doing, Captain Gates? Are we good? Everything, Colonel, everything under control?
Everything good.
Excellent, thank you. So again, if you have patched in via Zoom, please go to the YouTube channel. You can find it on the Superior Court of Fulton County's website. It's the third tab, live hearings. You click on Judge McBurney, you'll get the live YouTube feed. You'll see everything you see on this screen, minus all the squares of folks who aren't actually here in court. Thank you. We have a feed from the grand jury room.
Yes, sir.
That's creepy. All right. So, Mr. Endurin, are we going to skip the Chief Judge Brasher video presentation? We're going to try it? Okay. Well, when we know we've got everyone here, we'll do that. Thank you.
Everyone is going to play. So everyone is the grand juror.
Okay. Oh, that's where it would come from. All right. Go, Raymond. So for those of you wondering what's going on, since it's already after 1 o'clock, this drill or exercise actually begins on the chilly streets of Atlanta. Our potential jurors are lining up at 185 Central Street, where they are encountering sheriff's deputies who are performing a temperature screen and then letting them in the building if it's safe to do so. They'll go through the magnetometers. I'm told it's an expedited way, meaning it's safe, but they don't necessarily have to stand in line with everyone else trying to get in the building. They go to the information desk on that atrium level, where they are met by jury services personnel, their summons is processed and they are told to go to either 1C next door or 1D. So hopefully if you're in here as a potential juror, someone affirmatively told you 1D Delta. And if I look at the screen, I see some bodies in 1C as well, which is great. And I don't know, I guess we'll get, maybe Ms. Von Kelsch or someone will show up to say all the jurors are here. So we'll sit tight. Mr. Armstrong, do we have, are you going to be one of the prosecutors?
Yes, and Mr. Colley and Mr. Shaw. So
We're here.
Great, okay, you're just blocked by that massive screen. And then we were hoping for some public defenders as well to create a fair and balanced environment.
We have 2 PDs on their way.
Say again? Yeah.
Shall I leave them on the gallery view or pin specific 6?
I'm not sure what you mean.
If you want to pin 1C, like witness.
So the pin any specific.
Oh, for the screen?
Yes, for this big screen.
For the big screen, it will change when a witness is testifying. It ought to show the witness. When an attorney, it won't bounce back and forth with question and answer. But if an attorney were giving an opening statement, we'd want those screens to show the attorney.
Okay.
So it won't move all that often. It will during voir dire. I think it would show the microphones if we have that coverage, but I don't think it'll move at all on voir dire. During the trial, 99% of the time, it would just be showing the witness stand or an exhibit, however we work that out. Correct. Well, today, while it's jury selection, when jury selection is complete, then we'll have a witness or 2.
After that,
Correct. Who controls what it's pinned on? Okay. For now, it's someone on your team. Okay. Well. Controls. Okay. Now it's someone on your team.
well, it's still glitchy, but we'll play that way for today. But we need to find a solution to it. I will need to get the video file. We don't need to stream it from the internet. I think what's going on is because you're streaming from the internet and then you're streaming as a Zoom call. It's making it glitchy. But if we get a video file and play it from the thumb drive directly, it's going to be better.
Okay. I will be left, please. Mr. Greer, who will deliver the sign that we've got all our jurors?
I will have Ms. Von Kelsch do it at 1:15.
Okay.
So
I just need someone to say we've got everyone because we're still working on getting our attorneys. We've got prosecutors. I don't know what's going on with the defense attorneys.
okay.
This year, I'm not.
They were supposed to be 22.
We found 80.
Hello.
The defenders are supposed to be there. This is Luana.
Hello.
The Jennifers are supposed to be there. Good afternoon.
They were supposed to be here at 1.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't explain. They both confirmed that they were going to be there.
Okay.
I'll check on them though. I'll find them.
Thank you. Make sure they're okay. Appreciate it.
Can you pin?
Yeah,
Are you in
sure.
Courtroom 1C?
Sure, we just need to let,
Can you pin
downstairs know.
every microphone,
Also-
you 6
A walkie-talkie.
that is on the 2 big screens?
they are not using
You understand what I'm saying?
handhelds.
Say again?
The
Yes.
sheriff's department is not
Yes.
using handheld thermometers.
So those 2
are they
devices are
doing?
now hosts, so you can pin multiple.
The thing that tells you you have a 92-degree
I'll
temperature?
be over in a second.
They said it's subjective.
What is subjective?
Meaning it doesn't measure core body temperature.
The handheld or the one inside?
The handheld.
Okay.
That it doesn't work, when it's 50 degrees or less outside. So
Okay.
they are not planning to use those.
Okay.
Jury department has 4, if you would like us to load them.
No, this is a good note to make, and that's just a discussion for the hot wash afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
And what's your sense as to where we are? Do we have most jurors checked in?
And we have 13 more who have not yet checked in.
Are they physically around, or you're not sure if they're coming?
We're not sure that they're coming.
Okay.
Hey y'all, this is Amy.
Yes. Sure. No, it's not during jury selection.
So we're playing.
How are things going from your end?
Good.
Great.
But see, we had the mics on the staff.
Yeah.
That wasn't good. My microphones are the one on each end. That was about
And so,
Oh, right, they didn't rotate them. Oh.
You're gonna have to disconnect the mics from the floor too, because.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
both Jennifers.
Mr. Anjurin, this is not your role, so you just hear me out and we'll figure out what we're gonna do. But the way we had envisioned the courtroom being set up is that counsel table was rotated 90 degrees. So I didn't think about who we asked to do that. When I did it with the judges who were in here, we literally just picked it up and rotated it. Mr. Forte is saying that's doable, but we might have to plug things in and unplug them. I do not want to upset the apple cart with what you've done, but why don't we do one at least, if not both, and that way we can have the experiment with one of them facing that way. No, just this courtroom.
Hold up.
I feel like, and it'll be just so. I mean, I was I wish I worked for them.
Ms. Hanson,
Morning, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm well, how are you? We're trying to figure out what our role is.
So I'll tell you, you're gonna be defense counsel?
Oh, we are. Okay.
Who is here with you?
Ms. Lubinsky?
Great.
Here.
And then do you have a client?
We don't. We don't have a client or a script or a fact pattern or.
You don't need any of that. You do need a client, though. It's not gonna be someone, so if you can conscript someone.
Be a client, Mr. Scarborough?
All right. He is Lex Luthor.
Okay.
Okay?
Perfect. Yes, I think.
Shouldn't be a problem. Best lawyers I've ever had.
Did Roscoe have a good week at Student Week?
He was pretty jazzed about it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Abby still hasn't been Student Week. She is.
It's all a matter of chance. I kept asking him, like, have you not gotten it because you haven't been behaving well? He goes, no, Dad, that's not it. I promise. Yeah. Because I know your friend is well behaved and he's already been student of the week. So what are we waiting for?
Hold the table towards us, so we're not scratching the cable, and then turn it over. I'll be the defender and. Pull the cable.
You will be our.
Feel free just to watch them, Mr. Armstrong, while they struggle with that heavy table.
It's more.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. They don't want to tear anything up.
Slow down, hold on, slow.
Oh, yeah.
I was kidding.
No, okay.
But
Attached to the right, that's it.
Yeah, so when you push it, it pushes, you gotta go at the same time. Slowly, please. Gently. Hold on.
Should we come further towards me so we can make it more in the center?
Let's move it back a little bit. Just a little bit. Let's move it back. Yes. Towards the lady a little bit. Yes. Now we can rotate. Move it towards him just a little bit. That's okay. Now rotate again. Yeah, that's it.
excellent. Can you give me the last name of your third colleague?
Thank you.
You, Macaulay, and Shaw. Thank you.
Just a little, no, just a little. No. No.
Nudge. That might like to.
Yeah.
Judge, did you mute the YouTube feed?
I don't know what you mean by the YouTube thing.
Well, the YouTube live, is it on silent?
I don't control the YouTube. I just get it going. Why?
Okay, well, Michelle was zooming in and she can't hear anything, so that's why I was asking.
I don't know. I'll check.
Turn this way.
I guess we can.
Of course.
All right.
Yeah.
That way.
Yeah, you're welcome to come around if you want to get it that way.
Make sure the monitor doesn't fall.
Yes.
Good, careful.
Please be careful.
Yeah. So Ms. Nelson, I just checked it and the YouTube feed is full audio. It may be that folks have their own speakers off, but the YouTube feed is providing audio.
Thank you.
We're just gonna leave these down for now. You want to try to put them back up?
Let's put it back.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Enjurin, that we didn't think of this until just now. That's not very helpful of
I
us.
remember, sir, but I forgot. Forgot the last minute.
So why don't we get the attorneys and the defendant to take their spots? Ms. Hanson, your team will be at that table because in theory, Lex Luthor would be coming in and out of that door under heavy, heavy, heavy security, being a super villain.
Yes. In this courtroom, I don't think they will, wired to the ground.
Come on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
As necessary.
Judge, do we have numbers?
Yes, I was looking for your team. Here, how many do you need? I've got 20. I have 70, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, 20's perfect.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
Good.
Kevin, do you want?
And I also have easy kill wipes, but maybe we just have them right there. You've got some too? Okay, I've got backups. It's a terrible name.
So it's a superhero case, which I find to be hilarious because I wore my theme mask.
What we have is removable covers. How they're gonna try to tackle it. Yeah, but it's a great question.
This is in the past 5 minutes.
Stay in the audience. We're gonna select the jury first, so we're not gonna have a witness for a while.
Yeah, I just got indicted.
And yeah, lawyers, so you know, the fact patterns aren't critical here. You can have your own pattern with a witness. We're really trying to work through the technical and physical aspects of getting evidence on screens and moving around the courtroom. So don't fret. One second. Yes. Say one more time. So, yeah, the way we're gonna talk about it as the process unfolds, but it's gonna be out loud. There'll be no jurors in the room when they strike the jury, when we normally do it, because we will send the jurors home the moment we finish individual voir dire. If you were juror 7, write it down. Say thank you.
Oh, right, I'm up there.
Come back tomorrow, and you get a leave. So the strikes, I'm hoping that the judge will agree to do it. You don't really need another person. But when we strike the jury, it'll be out loud. We'll say number, we'll say, state
Thanks,
what's your
Devin.
first strike. They'll say juror 5. Yeah. Yep. Right, no paper has to move back or forth. Judge Richardson, are you still in here?
She went to go make some copies of the script, so everybody had an idea of what we were moving around. She'll be
Okay,
back in a minute.
super. All right. It would be great. So the vision that we've developed so far is that when it comes time to strike the jury, there are no jurors left in the courtroom. Jurors get to leave as soon as individual voir dire is done. So the judge will simply say, state what's your first strike. We strike number 17. And so the important question was, who has to hand that piece of paper back and forth that people are pawing off? No paper passes back and forth. You just call out, who's your first strike? And people can keep track of their strikes. But we'll get to that when we, because there won't be any jurors in the room when you strike.
Oh, okay, that's good.
No, not today. No, there's not the normal.
We don't have a lot of public concern about voir dire, but theoretically, they would have a jury box available to them. We talked to the sheriff's department about that.
So Ms. McCauley, is Mr. Armstrong going to be the witness? Excellent. All right. He's Clark Kent. Whoever you want him to be. Just Lex Luthor is the defendant, so you pick who you want your witness. You got the Wonder Woman, so at least, and we're staying in the DC universe. Yeah.
We are fact, we might have somebody in it. We do play with the idea of putting them in the jury.
He says that comes so naturally for me.
I'm sorry, say that again?
We're gonna be doing general and individual.
Yes, except that the intention, if we haven't, I think there's a lot more leeway in doing individual voir dire because we can choose how many people at any one time are individually questioned and where they all are. That the logistics are more challenging for conducting general voir dire among a group of 70 plus people. And so that's the logistics we're mostly focused on. And then we have the ability, once we say, okay, you know, we've got everybody general voir dire, let's focus on the first 36 and ask them questions and see if we can get a critical number of
Yeah, I
qualified
don't know that
individuals.
they figured out how to make Elmo talk to all this. So we may end up not using the hard exhibits, we'll use the digital ones. But that's a perfect collection because we're gonna see if these screens can do witness, face, and exhibit, and if they're both legible, or if it doesn't make sense to have a split
So the
screen. So
screen
we'll
behind
practice all that with Clark.
Is supposed to, we don't know if this is going to work, but the screen behind you is supposed to account for that. We're supposed to have a view of courtroom 1C so that theoretically, we're still trying this out. If all you're doing is raising cards, that you would be able to see them doing that. And so that way we could do general voir dire one time instead of 2 times.
We're trying that out today.
But we're trying that.
We're trying it out today, and we also may suggest, because there are 2 lawyers for both sides,
Right.
that one of you sit in 1C for the general questions. You don't need to go anywhere yet. We'll talk about it. But that's ideally, if both sides had 2 lawyers, then you'd have a set of eyes and ears in 1C for the general questioning.
Where is the view of 1C, Judge McBurney?
Pardon me?
Where is the view of 1C supposed to be?
So you can see some of it in prosecution 1C, courtroom 1C podium, which for me is the.
See, on these 2 big
6th.
TVs that are facing us, we have 4 views and they're all of this format.
Okay. So we'll adjust that. Because I told the Dejuan, while we're doing voir dire, thinking individualized, we want it on these 2 microphones as best as can be. But really, these big screens aren't important to the lawyers other than in general voir dire where they need to be able to see what's going on in 1C.
Right.
I think he can switch that pretty easily.
Well, if you've got a view of them, then my guess is he can.
Yeah, he just toggles, yeah.
If you're sitting here, you can see the judge and the witness.
We're gonna move that monitor a little bit because I can't, you guys could be giving me the finger and I'd never know. Which is okay, but. All right, so lesson number 1 is that it's taking a little while to get people into the building. Because we still haven't started, 26 minutes into this. I mean, we started, the process is happening downstairs. I thought we'd get 20 people up here sooner than that.
Bernie, we're gonna, our turn, are gonna do a little practice of.
Well, they were gonna, you know,
Great.
I saw the summons, they were gonna have an information desk. For once in my life, I was a little earlier, and I wouldn't see anybody.
Law,
Like,
review of the witness.
If they sit in certain places, yes.
Why would you have someone sitting there?
But that's the opposite, because one of the concerns that has been expressed to me, mainly from defense counsel, is they want the plexiglass on the opposite side, like they want to have a full barrier.
Sure. I thought the way that was operated is the way you see it there.
It doesn't.
But I guess if you sit next to each other, it doesn't extend to where you're sitting. If you leaned in only, okay.
The reality, yeah, so maybe the prosecutors have this concern as well, but it's only been expressed to me by some defense attorneys who are concerned about someone coming from behind jail.
Yep.
They want to prosecute. So if it's
If somebody's there, there's.
most likely going to be.
We have to have the really, really short attorneys be on the, don't break anything.
If it's.
It's mainly gonna be defense side.
Yeah.
That won't block
Anybody.
anybody
Well, Yeah, I mean, that person right there might have to look past you to get to.
But that's not during, they're members of the audience, of the.
When we've got a jury with witnesses, everyone hopefully will fit right there.
Yeah.
And someone at that distance anyway is gonna need these screens to see the witness, unless it was, you know, Big Head Fred, they're not gonna be able to see him without the assistance of that big screen.
Will that screen be there?
We're learning today where the screens are gonna be, because if screens are blocking views of witnesses, then screens are in the wrong place. This one may need to move a little bit because I can't see anyone at the defense table. I need to be somewhat near the microphone, and so we'll do some adjusting.
Yeah.
Now I'm questioning.
Oh, no, you don't need the whole, I don't think. Okay.
But I question.
Rachel Myers discussing. And each other on that. Do you think when we do the report for water, they need to be furnished in particular? Because in a typical school, they sit with their backs to us.
You're right, they could be looking that way. I think we just wanted to get them moved since we're doing everything in 2 hours. But it would be just like in the regular trial where you sit with your back to the judge and then everyone turns back around.
Because since we're gonna be using this.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right.
That's a good idea.
I'm just making notes. It was Rachel's point. Yeah, so we'll just swap. He just sits.
No, pretty sure we're all on the same page.
No, this is exactly what, I've got my notepad, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
He's still not moving now.
If we have 80 days, then they're gonna move this, right? We can't see the judge or the witness. Just here.
We were just discussing the reason why we're just getting these things out. I really think there is this is a configuration where all the cases on the other side take it back to the judge, basically. It's probably the same way. And we still need to figure out what to do and how to arrange that if you go to fix this. Then you can't see one city or what do you do with that? Like, is this monitor on one side of the other? The jury doesn't need to see or not see. Yo, so we're going to figure that. Well, it's possible that you I don't know.
Well, for 4 years.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good, how are you? Look, so with that one right there, I have a rock speed rating.
Right, so that's a security, I realized if we shove it that way, then that's an issue for you guys, because if defendant packs up and you need to get him out of the courtroom, you don't want to be crashing through the monitor. We may have to push it even further. For now, let's leave it right there, but I've made a note that that's a security issue, that we need the monitor to be in a place that makes sense for you guys to get someone in and out of the courtroom. Mhm.
It may be deferred, excuse me.
It may be that those people get deferred until we can figure out what to do.
I think the wheelchair would be good, because if we have 15, there's only.
Yeah, a wheelchair you could easily do, because I've done it before, and I just sit on the end. Make my own spot, brought my own chair. Hey, Judge McBurney?
Yes, ma'am.
So one of the things we were talking about in terms of figuring out ideally where the monitors would be located, since I know we're working with that,
Yep.
is if we're talking about a more traditional setup with the tables for voir dire, where the tables are where they normally are and the lawyers are facing the jury.
Yep.
Where do the screens go so that the judge and the lawyers can see 1C, but the jury doesn't need to see 1C?
So a couple options. One, the monitors on the but they don't have a keyboard to do that, because you can. I just got some feedback that YouTube is not real helpful right now because it was showing 67 little tiles because all these people have dialed in. So I switched my screen to speaker view, and now YouTube is actually showing you. You're going like this on YouTube because it's about 10 seconds delayed. So it's got you, except you've got the microphone screen. Looks like you have a shower cap on.
Can't you highlight us?
Well, and if we can do that, then we could have that appear on counsel's table, that screen of 1C.
Okay.
But these are very mobile monitors.
Okay.
So it may be that what we learn is as we phase through the trial, the monitors are facing this way and then that way. And you may have already spoken with Judge Richardson.
And I would be concerned about exit issues if they were here.
Right, or exiting out the door the defendant has to go through if there's an issue.
Right.
Right. So this is one of our learnings already is this monitor to my left, you're right, is not an issue. We can put it wherever. It's not an exit issue. This one is, we have to be thoughtful about.
Yep.
All right. Do we have anyone from jury services? How are we doing with getting those cards handed out?
Here's the legal calendar. So, I have to table that, when I do it, ask the judge.
The other concern is 6 feet here.
Yes.
Maybe we could get another.
I made it just one because I got feedback from a colleague saying 50 million little screens didn't help.
And these are all perfectly valid concerns. I'm just trying to make sure I understand the scope of it. Is your concern with your trial partner or is your concern with your client? Because those are two different issues.
I think it would have to be both because the sheriff's gonna insist, unless I'm wrong.
If your concern is your trial partner, that's going to be a problem throughout the trial.
I think the sheriff is going to insist that the defendant be in the middle, right? I mean, that's generally how it's done. So it would have to be.
No, you're fine. I'll go this way. I'm so sorry.
You can go that way and
Then we're 2 feet here.
Judge Richardson, do you mind going to 1C so you can be eyes and ears for us in there about what can be seen and can't be? Great. When we're done with the general voir dire, you can.
But if we put another table there, then we could be lawyer, client, lawyer.
I would think that it would be okay for the client to be on this end of the table because it's not closest to the exit. So,
Or if it's facing this way on this far side, right?
yeah,
On the corner.
yeah,
As long as the jury can't see if they're shackled.
right.
Yes.
Use that.
Which I'm afraid they're panel.
Well, I mean, none of them that I am thinking of, and none of them would be fully shackled. They might be limited with the
Hey,
ankle,
Michael,
with that leg brace thing.
They're ready for us.
I don't know, let's see what let's see what it looks like.
Hey, I'm in for a penny, in for a pound.
So we're just waiting for you to get up here with the list.
Okay.
Well, or do we have more than one of them? Are there two of those? Yeah.
Mr. Endurin, is there a way in Zoom to have fewer tiles on the screen? I'm getting feedback that the folks who are watching on YouTube, I did speaker view and then it always showed just one view because I think there's a dominant, it didn't move based on who was speaking. And we'll work that out later. It's always going to be right there.
Yes.
Okay. So is there a way to have it just be a few tiles
Hey,
on Zoom?
Judge McBurney, there is a way that you can tell it to only show videos that are on.
Yes.
And I just don't know how to do it, but I know it can be done.
Yes, we can. Is it also YouTube?
So on my Zoom, that's what goes to YouTube. And so I've got all these squares and I'm wondering if there's a way to have fewer of them because this is what people see if we go to, so there's the Zoom.
As long as the cameras are enabled.
Then they're gonna appear on.
Yes, the only thing we can do is to make anybody who doesn't need their cameras on.
Like the grand jury room.
Yes.
Okay.
Disable it. Exactly. That's a view only. You don't even need. I'll tell you to know.
I'll just stop video.
Since it's YouTube.
Should I just kick them out?
Yes. Yes, we can keep them on. Yes.
Don't take it the wrong way, Raymond.
Yes, that's good. Because everybody else doesn't need that. 1C. We don't need to.
Let's leave the 1Cs on for right now as we see how it works with things over there. Okay. Ms. Von Kelsch, if I turn off the camera that's associated with you, is that okay? Is that up in your office? There is I don't mean for you to see it from so far. Okay, if I turn that off, is that okay?
I mean, you can turn it off, but I think it has to run, or maybe it doesn't.
I'm just gonna turn the video off.
Yeah.
Great. All right, that's reducing the numbers. Great, okay.
Your laptop still on? No, you're fine. Just, can we blow that up?
How bad was it downstairs?
What's that?
How bad was it downstairs?
What's happening?
Yeah, I got your
And
email.
they didn't.
All right, do we have the numbers handed out?
We're waiting on the physical list. I can call out the digital list if you want to just get started.
We're waiting for some.
Adam 12. Maki Takis.
Because otherwise, they can prejudge and
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry.
How many copies do we have?
I have 5. Shanita took,
15.
you need 15?
Yeah.
We at least need one more.
No, that's why I said 15.
right now.
Okay? All right. All right.
They got their. So if we.
Judge, are we ready to start?
I have.
Whenever you have what you need.
And then when you get to.
We're in 1B.
Ours is right now.
Kiana Alexander,
These screens, we
you're
have,
juror number 1.
other than the close-up view of Ms. McCauley, we have,
I'm gonna have to get.
sorry,
Kathleen Weitzel,
we have a view of courtroom 1C, 2 views of courtroom 1C,
Kathleen Weitzel,
courtroom 1D.
Yeah, I think we've got 3
you're
1s.
juror number 2.
There's defense, prosecution, and something that says podium.
Okay,
There's a 4, because there's also one that says courtroom 1C.
okay.
Sharita Sterling Lee, you're juror number 3. She's in 1C.
I just turned one of the 1Cs off because it was showing a wall, so
Okay,
we don't do
Judge,
that.
anyway, Judge Richardson was reporting they have 6 views on their screens in there, but I don't know what they're of.
Okay.
Antonio Brewer, you're juror number 4.
Who let Brewer in the building? My gosh. Who's running security?
Glenn Joseph, you're juror number 5. Shirley Pineda, you're juror number 6. Delinia King, you're juror number 7. She's in here. Luana Walsh, you're juror number 8.
I don't think she made it.
He's not here.
Yeah.
Okay. Soraya Ward, you're juror number 9.
How do you guys know which courtroom to have the numbers in?
We wrote it down.
Okay,
When they checked in, we have a drop down on our software. We added it.
okay.
Jared Young, you're juror number 10. Tavares Waller, you're juror number 11. Jennifer Lubinsky, you're juror number 12.
She's right there. She's.
Okay.
I love having a colleague.
Wow, I know who's getting struck first.
Terry LaShawn, you're juror 13.
Jennifer Hanson, you're juror 14.
Oh, okay, you guys don't have to be.
Natima Williams, you're juror 15. Would you just everyone?
And we will have lists for everybody in a minute. For now, we can give that to Judge McBurney.
Mr. Enduring here, tech folks. Okay.
You need additional?
No, we're good. I just wanted to know if we could turn cameras on too. I know how to turn them off. We'll work through that.
He's right here.
I can stop video, like the witness stand. I can turn that off, but when it's time to turn it back on, all I can do is invite to turn it on. Who? Yeah, okay. So for today's exercise, that would work. During the trial, that would be bad because he's the court reporter. But I mean, we can do it, that's fine, but we would need someone to do that. Okay, we'll work through that. All right, thanks.
Judge, to prevent everyone listening and watching, hearing everything that's said, how do we do that?
Meaning if you want to have a confidential conversation with your client and not have it broadcast around the world.
Yes, or your co-counsel or your client. Sure. The same applies to the state. I'm sure they would like to have occasion to broadcast.
We'll need to make sure there is a way to mute those microphones. I don't know that answer. This is why we're here today, is to work through that.
Does that do it? Can anyone hear me?
This is a button that turns the mic on.
So this is on. Tell me if this is off. This is off. Did anybody hear me say this is off?
They may not have heard you say it's on.
Before I say it's off. Okay, I will say pig and a poke. If you can hear me say pig and a poke, next time let me know. Pig and a poke. And I think I just screwed something up.
Great, Hanson.
Sorry.
You've lost your privileges
I'm
to
losing-
touch anything.
Yeah.
Just
I'm
saying.
losing confidence in my
Keep your hands to yourself. You know what? I made a note that that's one thing that we need to ensure. It's a smart question. And again, why we're having this exercise. I don't know that if you were to whisper to co-counsel that it would get picked up. Obviously, when there are jurors in the room, you can't have a loud private conversation with each other.
We're hearing from colleagues that they're hearing every word spoken at either counsel.
There you go. Okay. So the key is to get your colleagues onto YouTube so they can hear what's going on. All right. You guys are welcome to stay standing.
Oh, they could hear us. They could hear us. When I hit the button and it was red, they could hear us.
Okay, why don't we all get seated? I don't know how to confirm that they can hear me in 1C.
Richardson said she can hear you loud and clear.
Great. I love all this immediate feedback. I would like a chicken burrito. All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. I mean that on two levels. If you are here as a mock potential juror, thank you for filling your civic duty as a juror. I know this is a complicated time to come down to the courthouse and work through the legal matters that we'll be working through. And thank you on the professional level of volunteering your time, since I know you all are court employees and have other places you need to be. I want to explain one ground rule. This is an exercise, so if at any point we are working on something and you've got a concern, wait a minute, like someone was just able to cough on me or I had to drink from a cup that someone else had used, let me know. We need to catch those issues, those security concerns as they develop. You're welcome to make notes and share them with us later as well. But it is okay to stop the proceedings to have the kind of conversation that Ms. Lubinsky and I just had. How do I have a private conversation with my client? So it's okay to say time out and we'll talk about the logistical issue. The monitor's not working, we can't see, we can't hear. But in general, we're going to try to move through a mini expedited trial and we'll get back into those roles. So I do want to welcome you all as potential jurors in the matter of the state of Georgia versus Lex Luthor. It's indictment 19 SC 123456. I'm Judge Robert McBurney, and for the next few hours, we're going to be together while we pick a jury in this matter. I want to have a few other folks introduce themselves before we get down to the business of jury selection. I'll start with the prosecution.
What do you want me to say?
Introduce yourself.
Okay.
My name is.
Good morning. My name is Lauren McCauley. I'm an assistant district attorney.
My name is Farhan Shah, and I'm an assistant district attorney as well.
And you represent the state of Georgia.
That is correct.
And on behalf of Mr. Luther.
My name is Jennifer Lubinsky. I'm an attorney with the Public Defender's Office, and together with my co-counsel, I have the honor to represent Mr. Luther.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Also in the courtroom, potential jurors are a healthy number of deputies. You might not see this many deputies next time you're here, but they are here to help you. If you have questions about what's going on, when is the next break, I need to use the restroom, etc., they're here just to make sure the proceedings move smoothly. The defendant in this case, Mr. Luther, is charged with super evilness, possessing kryptonite, and assault on a superhero. Of course, Mr. Luther is presumed innocent, and the state has the burden of proving his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. But before we can get into the facts and circumstances of the case against Mr. Luther, we need to select a jury. That's the time when the attorneys and I will ask you, as the potential jurors, questions about your qualifications to serve. We're not trying to pry into your personal business, but we do need to understand if you already know something about this case, or if you've already formed an opinion about this case that you cannot set aside. You have to answer all the questions that are asked of you unless you're excused. And what I need to do first before we can have any questions posed to you all is administer what's called the Voir oath. So if you would all please stand, and that would be the potential jurors in 1C as well, and raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm that you shall give true and complete answers to all the questions asked by the court and the attorneys concerning your qualifications as jurors in the case of the state versus Lex Luther? Please say yes if you so swear or affirm.
Yes.
Is there anyone who does not so swear or affirm? Okay, I will make a note that I can't hear what's going on in 1C, but presumably we would have someone in there who would say, yep, juror 17 was unwilling to make that affirmation. You may be seated. Thank you.
She can.
All right. The first part of voir dire is called general or group voir dire. I'm going to ask a few questions that the attorneys and I have agreed on. When I ask the question, if it applies to you, all you have to do is hold up your card, and we'll call out the numbers for the jurors whose cards have been raised. I guess at this time, it may be that one defense attorney and one prosecutor might want to be in 1C so that they can see who's raising hands and not in 1C. So it looks like Mr. Shah, you're going to head over to 1C? Yes. Great. Ms. Hanson, Ms. Lubinsky, is there a member of your team who wants to go to 1C?
Yes, Your Honor, I will go to 1C.
Great. We'll give you a moment to get there.
Okay.
How many do we have in 1C? Any sense? Yeah. 9. Wow, we only have 3 here. Okay. It's okay. Conflicts arise.
How does this work?
All right, it looks like folks are in place in 1C. All right, so again, I'll ask these questions. If they apply to you, all you have to do is raise your card, and I'll call out the numbers. or someone in 1C will call out the numbers, and then we'll move on. So first question, does anyone have any trouble reading or understanding English? Is there anyone here who is not yet 18 years old? Remember, the answers need to be truthful. Is there anyone who does not now reside in Fulton County?
Number 11,
Ooh,
3, number 13.
I forgot, time out, I forgot to add this to the lawyers, and this will be a point of concern. Our jurors will not be sitting in numerical order. And so when the numbers are called out, because we don't know who, people take a seat as they come in, and we ask them not to change seats. So juror 1 happens to be in this courtroom, but juror 1 just as easily could have been in the other courtroom. So when the numbers are being called out, you aren't going to have it in the good old days, 1, 7, 14, where they're going in ascending order. So we'll call them out slowly, but the lawyers need to be prepared to mark it down, and they may seem to be in a random order. So could we have the call outs from 1C again, please?
3, 13, 6, 11.
Great, that was crystal clear. And in this courtroom, it was juror number 1. So we just lost half our jury because they don't live in Fulton County. Who sent out these summonses? All right. If you have, for any reason, already formed an opinion concerning the guilt or innocence of the accused, please raise your card. Is there anyone in this panel who is a superhero? Number 7.
Number 5, number 9, number 3, and number 6.
We've got the entire Justice League here. It's not bode well for the defendant. Yeah, you'd expect that. Is there anyone who is a supervillain? Trying to balance it out for the defendant. No. Is Mr. Brewer here? All right. Please raise your card if you have any moral.
Whenever Curtis always says no cards, when there are no cards.
Okay, so rather than just an awkward silence.
Fantastic sign to move on to the next question.
I like that. So and this is particularly valuable when we have decreased visibility because folks are in 2 different courtrooms. So colleague in 1C, if there are no cards raised, for example, no one claimed to be a supervillain, if you could let us know no cards, we'll do the same from this side. So the question on the table is, please raise your card if you have any moral, ethical, religious, or other philosophical basis for not serving as a juror.
No cards in 1C.
No cards in 1D. Does anyone have a physical condition that might make it difficult to serve as a juror?
No cards in 1C, other than the masks.
Cards in 1D either. So the attorneys have estimated that this trial should last 17 weeks. I need to know if there's anyone who would find service for 17 weeks as a juror to be an undue burden or serious hardship. Please raise your card. Kidding on that one. Everyone, actually some people didn't raise their card. They really love their job. That's great. Do you want, counsel on either side, do you want us to ask a few more questions? I mean, I think you see how it works and doesn't. It was very helpful. Like, were you able to hear, Ms. Levinsky, the responses from 1C?
Yeah, no problem.
Great. And Ms. McCauley? Okay, great. So that completes the general voir dire. What we're going to do next is some individualized voir dire. And this is where we reach a fork in the road. As we've been discussing how to do this as judges and administrators, we've struggled with the notion. Juror number 1 is right here. So we'll go in numerical order. And we're lucky because our first juror is here. But the next juror is in 1C. And so the question is, as we call jurors for individualized voir dire, the lawyers asking the questions, not the judge, do we have them come on over from 1C so that all the lawyers are here, you're not split across courtrooms, and they would just address the questions standing at or near one of the two microphones? And it just means folks are having to move around a little bit more, but let me add this final bit of information. It's our intention, at least it's what the judges who have cases on this calendar coming up, have thought is appropriate, is that once we are done with individualized voir dire, so juror number 1 would be going first, when she's done, she may leave. She doesn't stick around. She doesn't wait for strikes, because we're doing strikes after we've released everyone. So people are required to stay in the building for as short a period as possible. So you're gonna wanna take good notes, but we won't be bringing the jurors back in for the strikes. So given that framework, does it make sense, I'd like to hear from attorneys on both sides, to have our second individual juror, who I think is number 3, we may have a number 2 here, come on over here, rather than you try to hear him from a microphone in the other room?
I would like them to come in person in front of the attorneys.
Okay, I don't know who wouldn't.
So would I.
Okay,
I need to see what I'm dealing with.
right. Given some of the answers we got from that other room, I do too.
Not to do it as individuals.
I switched it over to test the whispering.
Okay. So then the follow-up question is that the current plan is that masks stay on unless and until we reach a conclusion that we cannot understand this person with a mask. I mean, yours is staying on, period. Mine is staying on. But when we have a potential juror at the microphone, if the person is soft-spoken or has an accent and just no one is able to comprehend what's being said, we might broach the topic of, could you take your mask off? But the default is going to be that the masks stay on. I'm not talking about witnesses yet. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But for potential jurors, the thought process from the bench has been the masks stay on. We'll see how that works. And you guys should develop an opinion on that, because that's one of the things we'll need to work through. We have received some pushback from lawyers who've been helping on our local committee that they want that full exposure while they're doing the voir dire. I think that's different from a witness under oath testifying, but just cross.
I was just going to say, is there a reason that we maybe couldn't do an individual voir dire, have them come in individually into 1C, wait in 1D until it's their turn, and then have them come out from the hallway if they're already in 1C to come in and do individual voir dire that way? For specific questions.
I think we're saying the same thing. We don't have a way to seat people when they come in the building 1 through 48. When you come into the building, meaning the courthouse, you are checked in, and we know, jury services know which courtroom you go to. But of course, we have to randomize the group of folks who come into the building to get that list of 48. And that means there'll be some in 1D and some in 1C. But folks will have already been sitting in a designated spot. I say designated, they selected it, within those two courtrooms for quite some time. And we weren't comfortable saying, now everyone get up, you're going to sit in the spot where someone else had been for 45 minutes. So you come into the building, you take your seat. It just means that when it comes to the individual voir dire, it sounds like folks who are fall within that 1 to 48 over in 1C will walk over to 1D one at a time when it's their turn. Did I answer your question, or were you saying something smarter than what I've been talking about?
I don't know if it's smarter, but it's a little bit different. So the people who are in 1C, let's just say the odd numbers, for example, just randomly are in 1C, the even numbers are in 1D. So number 1 will finish his or her individual voir dire and will leave and be excused until selection or until openings or whenever. Then numbers 3 through 47 will have the benefit of having heard number 1, and then numbers 5 through 47 will hear number 1 and number 3. they're all going to be present for the whole thing?
So yes and no. That's not all that different from individualized voir dire back in the good old days. We would let folks in a higher panel, 13 through 24, 25 through 36. Hey, you can go get lunch and come back. They were allowed to stay. You always had 12 people in the jury box who would hear what each other's answers are. And to be clear, when we say you can go home for the day, we're not saying your answers were such that you're now not serving. So people will try to mimic that. Point number two, what I intend, or what I think the judges would intend to tell the jurors is, hey, if your number is higher than 15, if you want to go outside for a smoke break, we're not prohibiting that, or you need to use a restroom or something, you are free to leave courtroom 1C or 1D. You're not stapled to your chair, but if you are 13 through 24, you need to be back in here within an hour. And then it's a longer break for the people who are higher number than that. But that's how it worked in the past.
So the number of people is not necessarily going to change, but it can change at their free will, so to speak.
Meaning the number of people in the courtroom?
I think I'm following you.
Yeah. So we are not requiring people to not move the whole time. If juror 22 wanted to take a break and go walk in the courthouse, juror 22 could choose to do that. We're not saying you can't leave the courtroom, but you better be back here when it's your turn.
We basically would still have panels. Basically, we're saying they just won't be questioned individually in one deep. So they will sit put. So if basically we say, all right, jurors 1 through 10 need.
She's far from the microphone. That's why.
I'm sorry. So I'm saying, so basically, I'm incorrect here on this, but you're in essence saying we're still going to have sort of panels. We say jurors 1 through 10, you need to stay put for right now because we're going to do individual voir dire with you all, and it's going to be in 1D. The folks who are already in 1D will stay in there. The folks in 1D, but then everybody else can go, and we'll give them return times. Is that kind of what you're just the same way we used to do with panels?
I think so. I mean, this is how I would personally do it. This isn't a dictate where public safety requires. I think there's some folks who won't want to wander around the courthouse. They'll want to stay put. And of course, they're free to do that. Pre-COVID, if you were juror 48 and you never wanted to leave the courtroom, other than when someone is answering questions in private because it's a sensitive matter, number 48 could sit there. That rarely happened. Once you said, hey, you don't need to be here for 2 hours, they were gone. And then they hopefully come back. And we'd be doing something similar here. There's not a need for you to stay in the courtroom, but you have to come back to your own seat. I mean, the one different thing is there's a spot that you sat in. That's your spot. No one else sits there. If you choose to leave, you come back to that spot. I mean, we could not enforce no one moves for the 6 hours of voir dire because people have to take bathroom breaks. And folks may have other reasons to take a medication or whatnot where they want to leave the courtroom. So I don't know why we would handle that differently. So I think I'm agreeing it's sort of quasi-panel-esque, but it's across 2 courtrooms. We can talk about that more later. Let's do a couple of individual voir dires just to see technically how that works.
2 things. What happens if it's a sensitive issue? How are we doing that?
I don't know. That's not coming up today.
And the other thing is there's, of course, the risk of infecting the entire panel if a juror gives an answer.
True, but that was true 13 months ago as well, because unless a judge affirmatively shooed out the other panels, some people would float in and out. They'd have a book and they'd just sort of be in the back of the courtroom. There's always the infection, and let's not use the word infection, maybe taint, the word we want to use. But I hear you, that risk is there. Okay, so juror number 1. If you could come up to one of the microphones, this is the chance for the attorneys to ask you a few questions. The prosecution is going to start, and they may only have a couple of very, very basic questions. And then we'll see if the defense attorneys have any questions as well.
Before she begins, I just want to point out, so we've learned from Emily, from Judge Richardson the other quarter, that you gotta be a certain amount close to the microphone to be heard. And we need to make sure to the extent that the attorneys are gonna now be too close to where the person is standing
Yep.
for that 6 feet.
We may want to position the microphone further back, but let's see. Let's see if you can be heard, juror number 1, from the distance you are from the microphone. And the way I'd like you to start is by answering the questions that are on the back of the card. And if you would answer in complete sentences, because some folks don't know. Hold on one second. Oh, I would have said, I just don't have who juror number 1 is on here. So I would normally have the sheet. There's nothing, our trials are not mob trials or anything. So I would say, Ms. Smith, juror number 1, nice to see you, and this and that. If you could answer these questions. I start with juror number 2 on my list. And this is juror number 1, so I don't have her.
I was originally
All right. All right, so let's see if by standing there, if you could answer the questions on the back of the card, if folks are able to hear you, okay?
Judge McBurney?
Yes.
Hi, it's on the very right-hand side. It says random panel.
I was looking, okay, on the left-hand side, it had numbers. Okay, so this is Ms. Alexander. Hello, Ms. Alexander.
Hello, how are you?
Good to see you.
Good.
So Ms. Alexander, if you could please answer the questions on the back of your card, but do so in complete sentences, not because I'm an English teacher, but the lawyers may not know when you say yes or no what question you're answering, okay?
All right, my name is Kiana Alexander. I live in Fayetteville, Georgia. I work for Superior Court of Fulton County.
Is that not the best job ever?
It is.
All right.
I have been with Superior Court for 5 years, and I am currently a Human Resources Coordinator Senior. My previous job, I was an office manager. I graduated with my master's degree. I am not married or in a committed relationship. I do not have any kids. I do not belong to any social, civil, political, or religious organizations. I have not been a party to any other lawsuit for divorce or child custody. I have not served as a jury. What do I do for recreation? I have fun with my friends.
Excellent. Well, thank you for those answers. Let me see if the prosecution has any questions for you as we test out the audio in this courtroom.
All
Ms.
right.
McCauley?
Good afternoon, juror number 1. Juror number 1, you answered that you do not reside in Fulton County.
Correct.
Have you ever resided in Fulton County?
No.
Okay.
All right. Any questions from the defense?
Sure, you have your master's degree in what field?
Industrial organizational psychology.
How did you find that?
In undergrad.
All right, so let's pause there. I could hear Ms. Alexander just fine, so I assume the lawyers could. I don't know if there's anyone who's doing the YouTube feed who could shoot an email to someone or a text to someone. I don't know which of our colleagues, but it'd be helpful to know if the microphone Ms. Alexander was speaking into captured what she had to say well enough that the outside public could hear it. And we'll wait while that happens. So, Ms. Alexander, I appreciate your time. You are free to go. Do not take the card with you if you'd leave the card with the deputy. We will let you know if you've been selected to serve on this jury.
Well, thank you. I have plenty of work to do.
All right, happy holidays. All right, if we could have juror 3, Ms. Sperling Lee, come to 1D, please.
And Judge, they could hear her on YouTube.
Fantastic.
Also, Judge, they can hear, I don't know that it's necessary that 1C can hear you, but they said they can hear the juror loud and clear. They did know that the video of her was cut off in a weird way, so we'll need to talk about the camera configuration.
What's picking up? Yeah, so I didn't even think to look on the screen. When Ms. Sperling Lee comes in, we'll look at that.
And the only other feedback I'm getting is, Jennifer, when you turned away from the mic, they couldn't hear you. Yeah.
I have a question. So when the jurors come in and you say you can leave, do we have updated telephone numbers? Because so many times we do not have updated phone numbers.
Yeah, so my understanding, but we'll double confirm this with jury services, is that when juror number 1 checked in at the information desk, we got a blood sample and social security number and everything. Where did you hide the money? So we'll be able to find them. But you're right, we don't want to just let them go to the wind and we've got a bad old phone number.
That's right, and you all will get bios of each juror, just like you always have, so you'll have that information on there.
Yeah, good. I figured they had it covered. All right, juror number 3, Ms. Sperling Lee, how are you doing?
I'm great, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. What I'd like you to do, please, is to answer the questions that are on the back of your card. And when you're done, we'll see if the lawyers have any other questions for you, okay?
All right, my name is Sharita Sperling Lee. I live in Snellville, Georgia. I work at Fulton County Courthouse as an Administrative Assistant 3. I have been here for 2 years. My previous job, I was an underwriting assistant at State Farm. I have a bachelor's degree in political science. I am married. I have 4 kids. Let me see. Oh, their ages. Okay, so I have a 2-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 17-year-old.
That's a good spread.
Yes, my 17-year-old does work. He works at Zaxby's as a cashier. No, I do not belong to any social, civil, political, or religious organizations. I have not been up any of a party of a lawsuit. I have never served up as a juror. And what do I do for recreation? I watch my kids play sports.
You get that 17-year-old to watch those kids. Well, thank you, Ms. Sperling Lee. I'm going to see if the prosecution has any questions for you, and then we'll see if the defense does.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, juror number 3. You answered that you are a superhero. Are you associated with the Marvel universe or the DC universe?
Marvel.
Okay.
And what is your superpower, if I may be so bold?
Well, I'm a great cook.
You are a chef woman. Excellent. Any questions from the defense?
Have you ever had occasion to turn yourself invisible in the course of your employment as a superhero?
As much as I try to, I do practice, but I haven't had any success.
Thank you.
Or it could be that your kids just have the superpower of being able to see invisible people.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Sperling Lee. We appreciate your time. We will contact you if you've been selected to serve on this jury, and you'll be given reporting instructions then, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You can make sure you hand your card in to one of the deputies as you head out.
All right, thank you.
You bet. So we can do a couple more jurors if people think that we need to practice the mechanics. I think we see how it works bringing someone over from 1C. We have and I did flag this, Ms. Lubinsky, the unknown of what do we do if, I don't know who's next numerically, but if that juror said, I'd really like to talk about that in private. I suspect what we would do, and I'm just brainstorming now, is we'd say, great, I'm going to make a note, and you're basically going to go last. Because we want to minimize the number of times we say, everyone get up and leave the courtroom. Because we have very little control over where they go and how to keep them from sort of buffeting into each other out in the hallway. Here, we have built in the 6 feet-ish, but out there, it gets more complicated. It's going to come up, and so we need a plan. I'm open to ideas since we're talking about it.
We
but
don't use the jury room.
Well, it's always complicated to move the defendant, and our initial calendars are going to have all in custody defendants. So there's that complication. And the jury room is kind of small. You need to get the court reporter in there, and then we're all kind of in a small space. I don't know that we could keep enough space in there.
Judge McBurney, this is Richardson. What if can we try out the white noise and see what happens? Maybe if we pivot the attorneys and the defendant to face the well of the courtroom and bring that juror in and see if the white noise is loud enough to block it?
Sure, and if the juror was actually up at the podium instead of there, that begs the question of white noise. But fortunately, Mr. Anjurin is here. Do I have white noise powers? Because I know on the 5th floor, you just push a button. The lucky judges on the 5th floor.
Shouldn't they have the individual juror in the middle? Because we were awfully close here.
Oh, you know,
or they might be
on the
awfully
old
close
machine.
there.
I
It
don't
just seems
have it
like
on the
if
new
you've
one.
got
They
one
didn't.
person speaking at a
It
time,
got
why not
uninstalled.
put them smack in the middle of the room? You know
It's
what I
not
mean?
part of the regular install.
Just for individuals, when you're one person's talking.
Put them right here.
Yeah, rather than
Rather than right in
2
the
feet from
face.
us or 2 feet from them. They could even be at the podium, but there could be a
And I don't think it'd be
microphone.
that obtrusive.
Yeah, it does.
So do we have a juror 4?
Yes, juror, you can go to 1D. Yes, juror 4 is on its way.
All right. Chop, chop, Mr. Brewer.
And Judge, additional feedback was they are not able to see the juror on the YouTube channel.
Okay, I know Mr. Anjurin moved but I think we'll have to have some real tape on the floor. Monitor needs to be here for jury selection and all that. I know you had moved.
Right.
Well, we're good. You figure out the white noise piece. You can only. Okay, can you make it louder? Turns off my microphone? Huh. So when you do the white noise, we can't hear anyone's microphone. So then you would have to hear what the juror says, I guess, through ears rather than equipment. Well, let's try it out. But I also noticed, so do I have a way of designating a screen that a tile that I want to be big?
Which one do you want?
The courtroom 1D, because that's the one that best shows the juror.
Over, then click on it.
Yeah.
Pin.
Pin. Okay. There. Okay. Because this is what goes over YouTube. Great. So if I shift what I pin, then they'll be able to see the juror better. Yep.
I'll pin multiple ones.
Pin. Okay. Got it. Thank you. Juror 4, Mr. Brewer, thank you for your patience. I know you've been standing there for a minute. I appreciate you being here as a potential juror. So you had raised your card earlier in the day about there being something that you needed to discuss privately rather than in a more general setting. So if you could answer just the first 4 questions on the back of the card from where you are, and then I'm going to ask you to come up to the podium and we're going to try out the white noise feature to see if there's a way that the attorneys and the court reporter and I and Mr. Luther can hear you talk about that sensitive matter. Okay? But let's start with questions 1 through 4.
Absolutely. Thank you, Your Honor. First name is Antonio Brewer. What city do I live in? Fulton County. Where do I work? Fulton County Accountability Court. I'm the senior case manager where I supervise a team of case managers. I have been in this field for 9 years. I graduated college. I got my bachelor's degree in sociology with a minor in criminal justice.
Mr. Brewer, the question number 2 is what city do you live in? Where do you live in Fulton County?
The Cascade area.
Cascade area, so city of Atlanta, Cascade neighborhood.
That is correct.
Fantastic. Okay, if you wouldn't mind coming up to the podium. If we could activate the white noise feature. So that's a project that I've written down and then highlighted in red that we need to figure out how to do the discuss in private. And it may be that we would have that juror come in at the end. We might do the rest of the individualized voir dire for that juror, so we save just that piece to cover at the end. But I'm glad we tried that out. It's a good feature, and it's also good to know that the white noise shuts down the adjoining courtroom and YouTube. Okay. All right. Anything else anyone thinks we ought to try out in the individualized voir dire space?
Judge, would there be any problem with, with these microphones here, individual voir dire is going to involve jurors that are sort of uncomfortably close to one set of counsel or the other. Would it be okay to just have maybe in the middle of the first row or some central location for that individual person rather than
having to be on one side or the other?
I'm not worried about it so much, but I imagine the jurors might be.
What Judge Richardson told me earlier, which I had a question like that, is that for voir dire, it'll actually be like the tables normally are.
Yeah.
So you won't be uncomfortably close to them like right now. This is set up for trial.
Yeah, we wanted the tables to, it's complicated to move the tables because of the wiring under it. And so before we had all our jurors, we wanted to make that rotation. But what we'll do for voir dire, the tables will be in the traditional 90 degrees rotated. So you'll be facing this way and further back. So I think, because Ms. Hanson and the potential jurors they could shake hands almost,
Right,
and
sure.
not okay.
Yeah.
For a bunch of reasons.
Thanks.
So it's a good catch, but the tables will move afterwards. In fact, Mr. Anjurin's going to automate it, so I press a button and the tables rotate.
Very cool.
Anything else about voir dire? We'll do a hot wash later, but other things we ought to try out.
I think we're good.
Okay. Mr. Brewer, thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Honor. See you next week.
You bet. Did Judge Klaus do a good job today?
Absolutely, Your Honor. I didn't receive any instructions what to do with this card.
So you're going to leave now. You can go home and don't come back. But if you would leave your card with the deputy, it's government property. You don't want to leave with it. Okay? Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Small point, but to avoid having whichever poor deputy is there have to touch the cooties of every juror that leaves, we should get a basket or
Yep.
some central place for them to drop them.
Yep.
So that they can all be sanitized at one time.
Yep. Good point. Leave card. In fact, we may just have the basket right by I don't know that I guess because the tables will be facing the back of the courtroom, having the person come to the podium worked fine. But works well if the tables are already rotated. If the tables were in the traditional orientation, it would be weird to have the person at the podium, and we would keep the microphones there. But regardless, there ought to be a repository for the numbers. All right. All right. Ms. McCauley, any reason I can't excuse the remainder of the potential jurors? Have we examined enough jurors for us to strike a jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms., I don't know who's lead counsel for Lex Luthor.
Ms. Lubinsky.
Ms. Lubinsky, have we talked to enough jurors?
Yes.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if we did not get to ask you any questions, you should feel fortunate, but your presence was necessary because we never know how many jurors we're going to need to strike a jury. People have reasons why they might need to be excused. We've been able to question enough jurors that we will be able to select a jury. Appreciate your service. You ought not to be called back to serve again for at least 20 years. So you take care of yourself, be safe in this holiday season, and we will see you next time. Thank you. So the way jury strikes would work in consultation with our jury strike expert is that we won't be handing the list back and forth. You'll have the list you're familiar with. Everyone will have those same printouts where it's all the jurors and there's space to write, and you have some sketchy biographical information that you flesh out during voir dire. And then there will be a strike sheet, but that strike sheet won't go back and forth between the parties. The jurors will have already left. So jury strikes can either be run by a strike clerk, or if the judge wants his or her litigation manager to do it, or the judge could do it. It's really going to be the judge ought to explain to you how it's going to work. But there'll be an individual who will say, some judges I know go numerically, and so they would ask the state, what do you do with juror 1? Other judges let folks strike anywhere within the universe of potential jurors, in which case the question would be posed to the state, what's your first strike? And there's nothing secret about it. The state would say number 7. And you guys would make note of that so that when the defense is asked, what's your first strike? You don't say number 7, you pick a different number. And we go back and forth, and we do the same with the alternates. Any questions or issues with that? Nope. Okay. That should be pretty low impact. Well, then why don't we start the trial? You all who are still here, please stay if you don't mind, because you're going to be our jurors, meaning you're going to let us know if you can see and hear what's done when the parties present. I don't think we need to do opening statements because this case is so clear. But I would like the state to call its one and only witness so that we can experiment with evidence presentation.
Yeah. Can I just make one point though?
Yes.
The opening statements though, where are they going to get them from if they want to be viewed on YouTube?
So I was going to have them do closings, so we'll figure that out then. We didn't need to do both.
No.
And closings are more fun?
You're good.
Okay. All 30 seconds of the closing. So with that and the preliminary instruction that the jury received, Mr. Ms. McCauley or Mr. Shaw, if you call your first witness, please.
Yes, Your Honor, the state would call Clark Kent.
Mr. Kent? You come on up, but before you get seated, the deputy's going to swear you in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
As best I know, Clark Kent.
Please state your first and last name and spell it for the record.
Clark Kent,
When he sits down.
ClarkKent.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Yeah, so for visual.
Nobody over here can see the witness.
Yeah.
Because of the computer screen on.
I can see 80% of Judge Richardson.
Well, yes, I can, so while we're here, technically.
Yeah.
I cannot see the deputy in the back row.
Are you sitting on one of the yellow pieces of tape?
I'm sitting. No.
No, is she, are you? Okay, so we could have a juror sitting right there, and that's your.
This is gonna be the biggest issue.
The two monitors in the podium are the main things if somebody's short for the podium. But like, not everybody's as tall as I am, so some people are gonna be like this.
And Judge, I can't see it.
And I can't see.
Who's speaking? I definitely can't see Ms. Lipinski.
First off, we need
The lectern? You guys are tearing up my courtroom. That's gotta help, though. That
helps considerably.
Unless you have x-ray vision, which apparently some of our jurors do. All right. But
So we can't see him because of this monitor.
I can see Mr. Scarborough.
And I can't see him because of your court reporter.
Yeah. Well, actually, behind the court reporter is actually the court, there's a monitor, there's this thing, and the court reporter between me and you.
this moves. The witness stand moves. So I don't know. Give it a pull sideways. Yeah, we don't kill the super duper air filter, but let's move the witness stand forward, mindful of cords and whatnot, and the fancy air filter.
He literally is Clark Kent.
You also need to change the pins now on the big screens.
Yeah, we're gonna have to
This is
figure out.
why we have the big screens,
Right.
You say the pins.
of which the view of Mr. Armstrong.
The cameras?
The squares.
needs to be on the big screens.
Yeah, and we'll do that. I've done it for YouTube, so they're seeing that.
But the gallery needs to
Yep.
only see him.
Yep.
So this is gonna be a little bit.
And we had talked about how when voir dire is over, obviously there's a big break. And then these screens become showing one of two things, the witness or the exhibit, or both.
And also, to what extent do we have the ability to reconfigure the tables so that perhaps they're somewhat closer together, a little farther away here? Does that change their sight line?
We can work on that. I mean, you flagged, this is again why we're doing this. And so without the pressure of Captain Gates looking at us, we will try out different tables at different angles, but this is good. Because the monitor, you guys need your monitor. You can't not have a monitor. We'll have to figure out a way to make that work.
Depending on where the person sits, like a shorter person, you're not gonna see as well. But if they can get up to the microphone, they'll be able to see some of them.
It would help. But more importantly, if we can pin the big screens, should be pinned on either the witness stand or the exhibit.
This is the best time to have a haircut you haven't had yet.
Yeah, those are some bangs.
All on camera.
All right. What are my charges? Right. Assault on a superhero and super evilness. Okay, so I will. Those are our charges.
So what's on the big screen right there, Mr. Shaw?
Lauren and I, you, witness.
Okay. Are you gonna make the big screen, just the witness?
Should it be just a witness?
I think so. I don't think that the jury needs to see any of the other stuff. Okay, that's gonna be a lot of Armstrong. That's gonna be a lot of Armstrong. Sheesh.
I feel like we should get a fan to blow there.
So what's on YouTube right now? Is it just one panel?
I pinned, so YouTube feeds from my screen, and I have pinned it on, the witness camera. Really?
Yeah.
Let me see.
So how many pores do you have?
That's weird. Yeah, it says podium.
We just see witness now, just in case.
Yeah, so on YouTube, it says it's 1D podium. I don't have it on the speaker. I have it, I pinned. Oh yeah, there we go. Let's see if that changes. You have, no, but then pin.
It's not modern light.
Yeah, but I thought if I pinned it, then that would be the only one I would see. But that's only if I do speaker view and pin. So my screen is just showing the witness stand.
Now I,
But,
I do not see the judge at all.
you may be all right with that.
I just saw it briefly from the other side. That's massive.
Yes,
No, that's scary that. I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Workers.
So that's the highest it goes. So for a tall person. Oh, wow.
Okay, now I can bounce over to, well, now they'll see him because, for whatever reason, the feed, if I pin someone, is what's at the podium.
Well, and any concerns about the fact that as long as the monitor remains there, then we're always going to be looking at a profile of the witness, right? Because they're not going to be looking at the screen, they're going to be looking at the lawyer asking the questions, which means we see a side view because that's where the camera is.
Unless there was a camera that was zoomed in on the podium that might be blocking a space, I don't think you can get from in front without blocking somebody else.
Right. I can just say,
They're saying now they're looking at all different cameras.
Yeah, and soon they're gonna see, Kevin on a screen through this camera. In just a few seconds, it will be, the camera from the podium, which is trained on that monitor. So that's how it's gonna work for now. Technically, we'll have to develop a bit.
Yeah, the podium monitor is facing the defense, it looks like.
For some reason, YouTube
Yeah.
is only seeing the defense.
Correct. Well, YouTube is only seeing what comes out of that camera right there.
Okay.
Because when I pin something, I tried to pin this camera on there, but when I pin something, the only way to make it on my screen here big is to do speaker view.
Wait.
We need to have a second, somebody who's in charge of handling this, who's in the courtroom during trial, other than you.
The technical person, 100%. Yes, you see what happens if I'm in charge, like there's smoke pouring out of the machine. Yeah. So I pinned this, but you see, I pinned it, so what? It's not big on my screen. The only way I can make it big on my screen is to then do speaker view, but of course, he's not the speaker. But if you do speaker view, what it shows on YouTube, it's delayed, but now that I went to speaker view, it's gonna show that camera.
I just wanted to be obnoxious, but
Yes. Yeah. So again, this is a little tape delay, but in a moment, there you go. So that's what you get if I do speaker view. The only way to get big on my screen. So I'm happy to do gallery view, but then pinning, I guess that just makes them in the upper corner. Okay. And so what it means for the folks on YouTube is that they can see the witness, but he will be one of several tiles, and I'll just need to see if there are any other tiles we can have go away. Yeah, but we'll need to work through that. All right, well, let's try an examination of this witness. And so this is, all right, so this is what it looks like.
Can I ask you a question real quick? Are those showing immediate feeds, or are they showing the delayed feed? Because I see that, like, one of the images that I can see of myself in the background is delayed.
Yeah, YouTube is, so in case you drop the F-bomb, I can pause it and the world doesn't hear it.
Okay.
So it's like 7 seconds delayed.
Okay.
All right, don't do that though.
I would definitely do that, but yeah.
Yes. All right, so we are reconvening. Clark Kent has been sworn in most expertly by our deputy, and he is subject to direct examination, which is going to be exhibit heavy.
Got you? Okay. All right, Mr. Kent, how are you currently employed?
I am a photographer for the Daily Planet. Or reporter, I don't know.
Reporter.
And how long have you been in that role?
10 years.
And in that role, did you have an opportunity to encounter an individual by the name of Lex Luthor?
Many times.
And in what capacity?
I'm often on the street being a reporter, and he's often just on the streets of Metropolis doing mayhem and horrible things left, right, and center.
Have you had an opportunity to engage in a physical altercation with him?
Yes, ma'am.
Doing horrible things, not relevant.
Response, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
One of the charges on the indictment is that the defendant is charged with super evilness, so I believe his answer actually would be relevant to this proceeding.
It is an element of the crime. So overruled.
And have you had the occasion to engage in a physical altercation with the defendant, with Lex Luthor?
Yes,
And do you see Lex, the individual you know as Lex Luthor, here in the courtroom today?
I absolutely do.
And where is he seated?
I don't want to point. He's right there. He's at defense counsel table with a blue mask on.
Thank you very much. The record could reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
He has.
And Mr. Kent, prior to coming into this courtroom here today, did you have the opportunity to review surveillance video of a physical altercation between you and you and the defendant?
I absolutely did.
And is that physical altercation contained on this USB that I'm now showing you?
Yes, you had me watch it yesterday.
And where I see the initials CK on this USB, are those your initials?
Yes, I wrote them there at your direction.
After you reviewed the video?
After I reviewed the video.
All right, thank you. Your Honor, at this time, the state would move to admit State Exhibit 1 into evidence.
Any objection to States 1?
Not sure.
Thank you. Any objection from the jury? From the defense. Okay. All right. Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Permission to publish?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you want me to do this?
Just what we're going to try out.
Okay.
While she's doing that, so are we going to approach the witness as we would ordinarily do, or are we going to authenticate just like that?
That's what we were just gaming through over here, if I might interject.
Yep.
One of the things we should talk about is finding a comfortable spot where the attorneys are going to question witnesses while seated, come to that, and then what about standing up or objecting? Because, for example, Ms. McCauley, when she was addressing the court on that objection, did not stand up, so it was perfectly heard in the microphone. But she stood up, as is all of our practice, right? But suddenly became not hearable on the audio for these workers.
So we will certainly need to develop best practice YouTube behavior. More importantly, everyone in court was able to hear Ms. Levinsky. So we'll need to get comfortable always being sort of tethered near the microphone. Gone are the days of wandering the courtroom making a presentation for now.
And apparently it's pretty hard to hear, Ms. McCauley on YouTube as well when she was questioning the witness.
Okay, well, we'll make sure that the microphone is unmuted. She has the disadvantage of having a giant monitor sort of blocking her view of the witness. But it's also not an issue if the attorneys decide they're putting their backs to the jury if they want to be at the podium, which is why Judge Richardson came up with that notion of having the tables the way they are. Again, we're going to need to tweak this some because it's real hard for the prosecution to see the witnesses. I guess it was hard for Ms. Levinsky as well. We need to work on lines of sight, and we will do that at a separate time when we're not imposing a lot on everyone else. Do stay near the microphones when you're asking questions, when you're making objections. And as to the exhibits and where we put them, one thing that ideally would happen before trial, and this is incumbent on the judges to do in a pretrial conference, would be 99 times out of 100, the exhibits are known and not objectionable. And so there really ought to be a way where both sides can say, you have a foundation, you can lay it by, just bring the witness all 20 exhibits and put them in front of him or her if it's the lead detective. It's all crime scene photos anyway, so that we're streamlining it as opposed to, I'm going to bring you one photo at a time. You recognize what this is. Jurors hate that anyway. They would rather you say, here are exhibits 1 through 50. What are these? These are crime scene photos, and get them in that way. It could be, if the sides have agreed upon it and the judge has asked them to work through this, that the stuff is pre-admitted. So you would simply say, this is stage 1, I move to admit, because the defense has already heard on the record a sufficient tender for those exhibits. We can work through that later, and each judge may want to handle that differently. But Judge Richardson, Judge Carter's spot on. We don't want there to be lots of to and fro. And part of what we're going to do right now is see how that works. We need to wrestle with, what do you do with the murder weapon? There's a gun. You need to get it to the witness if you've got your crime lab expert who's going to say, here's how the trigger pull works, this or that. The jurors can't touch the gun during the regular proceedings. You can't hand it around. We don't want, they'd all have to put on gloves. And it would take 30 minutes for one gun to be passed, a secured gun, passed around with all the jurors. And so we have to come up with different ways of doing it. I didn't ask the prosecution to bring a weapon in. So we've got a paper exhibit and digital exhibits, but even that we're seeing, well, how are you going to move these things around? Did we run into a technical issue with playing a video? Okay. Did you all have a suggestion as to what to do, or just that we need to work through?
I liked Ms. Polly asking questions from seated as opposed to going to the podium, because I want to be able to see the attorney's face. So, we played out both ways, and we've been brainstorming this, but now sitting through it, like it definitely, I think, because it's also one more person to block my view.
Right.
Okay. So if we can truly avoid, I think it needs to be, unless for some good reason, then you talk from the podium, especially the podium.
I agree. Unless they're having the witness step up to reenact something, people are at the tables. It's safer that way too. And just it's going to be uncomfortable at first for some folks not to be on their feet doing the things that they've done on their feet historically, but sometimes there's discomfort in them. It will become the new norm. All right, we're running. Ooh, I see some video footage.
All right,
There's a strange thing on the witnesses monitor that prevent the witness from watching it. There's a big white circle that says desktop. You zoom up and use browser that I don't see on other people's, but that is on mine, which would prevent the witness from seeing it.
Okay.
Sorry.
I think it might just be my monitor. It popped up a while before the video.
Okay. We'll have Mr. Andrew check it out.
I'm just having a mini rush.
The January 12th incident. Sounds ominous. Let's go back.
And you can probably fast forward through about first 15 minutes of it.
This is currently what I'm looking
Yeah.
5:10.
Okay, maybe because he's taken over for a minute?
at. It's not on his screen now.
No.
And it was there before he tried to.
Okay.
Which way was this? I've completely decided it was gonna be. No.
You can start at 5:10.
You guys are gonna get texts about that?
Lauren, for physical exhibits, you want to open it and say, there's a box under your desk. Open it. You get a gun. You get a gun.
So they can see the video.
No, it went away. Whatever happened worked. I can see the video. It's not maximized, but I can see the video without the obstruction.
What's on the big screen? It's big. Okay.
It's not full screen, we can see other parts. And now to
So that's me going up to Lex Luthor's car. No? Oh.
Let's try again.
Yeah, there was sound later on. Is it not? I can start about 5 minutes, 10 seconds in.
Well, how long is this video?
Yeah. What is that thing on the lawn? That's me.
What? Is that your lines?
Yes.
I just should have HOA. It's part of your office.
Oh, uh-oh.
No. A quick here, this is to ask for, if council can redact or shorten videos. And then we have to give it, 1 and 1A, just a portion they want to play.
We could, what we need is a system where, historically, you just move the slider over and we need to make it work that way. I don't know that we built that into today. Yeah, no audio for today.
Oh, okay. There's a 911
If there's a purely audio file, would that work, or is that gonna cause your head to explode? Well, let's at least work through the video. So we say get to about the 5-minute mark. Okay. Uh-oh. Don't worry about the audio.
Okay.
Yeah, totally looks like. Yeah. It will figure it out.
Did it stop working? I'm not worried about the audio. If you want to, we can figure that out for another time. Yeah.
Do the jurors have an unobstructed view of the video, or are they blocked by the parties?
Vicky, let's see. Well, I can see part of my screen is blocked by the
right
Ed?
here, but I can look over there. It's pedestrian.
Okay. I just want to mention that.
How about way in the back? Are you able to see the screen? Okay. All right. Can we get to the 5-minute mark?
These are like the screen, I guess some of this question may come down to, yeah, if we're going to be using plexiglass.
Right. If that's not being used, then it's like, I can see the screen. It's almost like one of those things that the president uses to give a speech. That screen, yeah, the teleprompter thing.
Yeah, the state's not using members, the way they're seated, it should come out.
Yep. All right. Can we roll it at 5? Is it playing?
Okay. I just get out. Oh. Was that Lex Luthor? That was Lex Luthor. He got out of the car and outstretched his arm towards the left of the screen. Yes. Oh no.
It's definitely you, Chris.
Oh, that's lovely. Sorry.
So I'm just gonna go. No, I don't think this is weird. Why would you let me go?
So, Mr. Kent, if I could ask you a question, is that you laying on the ground? In the video?
Yes. Superman is laying on the ground anyway.
Series.
Yeah, one of the charges is that.
Thank you. I think it's other videos. Yes.
Thank you. Yes, we can finish the video. Mr. Kent, that video that we just saw, was that you that ultimately ended up laying on the ground?
Yes.
And in your capacity when this incident occurred, were you acting as a superhero?
Yes.
And what were your superhero capabilities at the time?
My superhero capabilities at the time in my capacity as Superman was flight, lasers, X-ray vision, and super strength.
Okay. And is there something that would overcome your super strength?
Yes.
And what would that be?
That would be kryptonite.
And are you familiar with identifying when someone has been using kryptonite?
Absolutely. I can actually identify without even saying it.
And in that exchange, did you identify whether or not the defendant was utilizing kryptonite?
Absolutely. I immediately felt the effects of kryptonite as he approached me.
And do you know Lex Luthor to otherwise have any other superpowers?
No, none whatsoever. He is just a human being with nothing super about him.
And did you have injuries that resulted from that altercation?
Yes.
And what injuries were those?
The injuries were abrasions to my head, a concussion, and temporary blindness.
All right. Thank you. I'll pass this witness at the time.
Ms. Lubinsky, do you have any questions for Mr. Kent?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. King, I'm a little confused. Are you Clark Kent or are you Superman?
I am actually both. Clark Kent is my daytime name. And because I forgot my glasses today, I guess technically I'm Superman, but I am actually both individuals, Clark Kent and Superman.
So you have an alter ego?
I am both individuals. It isn't simply an alter ego. But yes.
Dual personality?
I'm sorry?
You have dual personality?
Not really. I just act that way.
When you are in the role of Clark Kent, do you still have the same powers you would have as Superman?
Absolutely.
All right, let's pause for a second. Can folks communicate, YouTube viewers, let us know if you could hear Ms. Lubinsky? Because she's pretty far from the microphone, but she's projecting well. So just good to know if that gets picked up. Because if that does not get picked up, then we'll need to work through it because the defendant's right in front of the microphone. Hopefully he's not going to be saying a whole lot from that table.
Right. We're hearing Jenny is hard to hear, so.
Okay. Well, in the courtroom, you project well, but you're far from the microphone, so we'll need to work on those logistics. The state has it a little easier because two people and they can move around how they want.
Judge, if where Mr. Scarborough was the person asking questions, there'd be no obstruction whatsoever. Ms. Lubinsky and I have that monitor and a little bit of this monitor in between us. And if I wasn't as tall or leaning as far up, I think it'd be more of an obstruction than it is currently.
If the questioner were at the microphone?
If the questioner was where Mr. Scarborough is right now,
yes,
then there'd be no obstruction whatsoever.
Okay.
But well, they might not be able to see a little bit of me because of the screen, but I can see all of him.
But that screen can move a little bit, but I think that may make more sense. And if the defendant is one closer to this door, I think safety-wise, that's okay. It's moving the defendant towards the exit that is bad. Moving the defendant this way, which is technically closer to lockup, is okay. Okay.
And that would also resolve.
Okay.
The jurors would be uncomfortable with the defendant
Yeah.
being so close.
Right. So swap, please, and ask a few more questions. You may. That's what this is about.
All reconfigured this right now, so we know what it looks like for the 13 and 14 people who are sitting right here
Because of viewing, so when you can tell us what
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So if you're here, please sit. Anyone in court right now, including Judge Newkirk, take a yellow tape spot in the center of the courtroom. That's a great idea. Yeah. And so if there's a bad spot, we need to know that. Mr. Anjurin, you're exempt because you may have to jump up without fires.
if we have 4 rows filled in the 5th row, still see.
Yeah.
Still see.
Mr. Shah, why don't you take one of the seats? Ms. Hanson, if you don't mind, if you just take one of the seats there, so they're all. Thank you.
All right. Well, we have a full house.
No, that's a great idea. So how many is that? 3, 5, 8, 10, 13. So if we have 2 alternates, then we've talked about this, there may be someone sitting in a chair. Yeah, okay. All right. So can you all see the witness?
Yes.
Can anyone not see the witness? Podium monitor blocks it. Okay. I assume. Okay.
Does everybody have an unobstructed view of one of the 2 monitors so that you can see the witness's face?
Yes.
Mr. Greer, we just lowered the monitor. Did that help, or the problem was the bottom of the monitor? Okay, great. All right. So we've got a good view. I think audio has not been an issue, being able to hear folks because some of you were seated even further away. All right, so Ms. Lubinsky, now that you are closer to the microphone, ask a couple more questions so that folks on YouTube can let us know if they can hear you. And Mr. Anjurin, we did not, am I correct, did not get the Elmo connected? Okay, so we won't do a paper exhibit.
So, Mr. Kent, or would you prefer me to call you soon?
Mr. Kent is fine.
My understanding was that as Superman, you cannot obtain cuts and bruises and things of that nature, correct?
That is correct, but that's not only as Superman, that is as Clark Kent as well.
So how did you obtain the injuries?
Well, whenever I'm around the substance known as kryptonite, as I discussed with the prosecutor, I no longer have my super abilities. And so somebody with kryptonite would be able to harm me just as they'd be able to harm any other human being.
So when there is kryptonite in the vicinity, you would not be impermeable to knife wounds or anything of that nature.
Correct. If it's in close proximity, not just in the neighborhood.
All right. If YouTube participants could let us know if you could better hear Ms. Lubinsky.
I'm hearing it's better, but not great, and less clear than Ms. McCall.
Okay. Are there other things we ought to try out with a witness? I know that the big one would be a witness has to demonstrate something. We don't need to do that today, but anything else we need to determine in terms of angles, or we're going to have to do on the side some work with evidence presentation. Judge Barwick.
Just for the record, nasty is not bothering me at all.
Good. No, I think that Mr. Armstrong is audible, and we don't have the issue of, I guess that would be a defense attorney or a prosecutor determination. How can we tell if he's lying with the mask on? But in terms of hearing, the hearing doesn't seem to have been an issue in the courtroom at any point during this. It sounds like the folks on YouTube have had a little bit, if we're too far from a microphone, but that's a good learning.
The fact that it's so large on the screens, you see his eyes so well.
Yeah.
So he's really, he's looking shifty in the eyes. Well, and we are also. I don't think he's totally.
The screens are good. They are big.
We are also talking about having clear masks for the witness. We don't have the ability to provide them for all the jurors, but we would be able to, we are planning to provide them as an option for a witness. Number one, and then number two, I just would be interested if anybody sitting here now has any concerns about their ability. It's not necessary, but I'd be interested to see the lawyers and the defendant in terms of, because lots of jurors are going to be looking at the defendant like, how's he reacting to what's just said? Do you feel like you can see that?
Because this is jury.
Okay, so Judge Newkirk is blocking the defendant.
But if you can lean. Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't see the defense attorney, but I don't really see. But yeah, the defendant, you see all the jurors. Conversely.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Good question.
Okay, that's a great question. Mr. Anjurin, were we able to do a split screen of exhibit and witness, or that's again a project for another day? Yeah, I just meant on the big screen. Okay, can you put it up? Do we have a digital?
I have medical records on there.
Great, so we can get a document. What do you need? Sure.
Ms. Levinsky, the microphone is directional.
Is it easier?
Can you point it at you when you're at yourself when you ask questions?
Sure. So it's better if I keep it towards me. Okay.
If it's not doable, that's fine. I just wasn't sure. If we can do it, we ought to try it out.
Is it a Lusher Grady medical records?
It says Lusher Grady medical records.
You guys don't have to say. I don't want to delegate you guys. No, but if you want to say that, you can. You're welcome to it. Is the television that we normally use over the window stand going to be able to be used
I don't know.
as a third Mr. Armstrong, fourth Mr. Armstrong?
I would think we could push the feed there, but I don't know. Let me add that.
I just, because again, that might help.
Can you try turning it on, Mr. Armstrong? Yeah. It may be broadcasting it right now. No idea. So it was on, but not sending anything?
I'll turn it back on then. Change whatever that was.
Yeah. Wow, that's very clear.
It says no signal, I don't know.
Transcript.
Yeah, well, we're looking at
We don't do that right here.
Yeah.
I just want to see that. Yeah.
Use a transcript.
All right, get back on the stand, Mr. Kent, you were not excused.
Yes, Your Honor.
So it's the exhibit on the witness?
Yes, please. What happened to the person in the video? Did he
pending.
trip? Someone push him over? I didn't.
No, he fell and it's a pending case.
Okay.
Yeah. I can tell you later. Not when Judge Bobbitt's here. Don't want to subject Judge Barwick to any more drama.
Right.
Huh? I have been, but I can't see the exhibit as well. Yeah. I don't have a witness. Yeah.
Yeah.
So have one, rather than a split screen,
And it would also make it easier from the administrative perspective, so the change would only need to be made on one screen when you get that
What if the witness was up there?
yeah, that's a great question. Mr. Shaw was suggesting if we could get the wall-mounted monitor to show the witness when exhibits are on these big screens, because I've heard some of you say, I can't quite see it in one, but if I can see both, I get the full picture. So the big floor screens would have the exhibit when there is an exhibit. And we've got the witness, it's on, it's got no signal right now. Well, we don't need to fix this today.
It's not,
There's power on. But if you all in the jury area had the exhibits on the big screen and could see a larger than life version of the witness on this screen here, wouldn't that be a good compromise?
Yeah.
But if there are no exhibits, then of course you could have, if there's a witness who's just going to be talking about what she saw and no exhibits, we would use the big screens for the witness as well. Yeah. So the toggle wouldn't be a split screen. The toggle would be the two floor screens would become exhibits when there is an exhibit. Up on the wall would always be the witness.
The issue, yes, you can do that, but because the screen sharing, right, only two devices and YouTube, but not screen sharing to the main.
Don't try to problem solve it today. We're making notes. We know what we need to work through.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure, but we can.
We'll experiment later. All right. Mr. Kent, I appreciate your testimony. You're free to step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Now that the defense is rested as well, it's time for closing arguments.
Can we get rid of the exhibits?
Pardon me?
Can we get rid of the exhibit?
Yes. Let's take the exhibit down. And both sides have 30 seconds for their closing arguments.
Are you?
I think the state is going to reserve.
Okay.
Oh, you want to go last?
Yeah.
They want to go last.
That's what I meant.
Okay.
Are we standing or are we sitting for this? I didn't.
Well, we're going to figure that out. I just need to make sure, are the medical records down?
They are.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Great.
Judge, we have one, like, if we choose to use a PowerPoint, how is that going to work? We can cook at the remote, we
Yeah.
can do it seated
And
with the
you
remote.
want the PowerPoint there, yeah.
I'd be fine for PowerPoint just to go away.
Yep, we'll add that to the IT list.
And if you want, I have a remote with a USB, I can bring it down, try it.
Okay. All right. So Ms. Hanson, the answer to your question about closings and where you stand, you need to be near a microphone. We're not going to have a microphone that you can clip on you, or the Dr. Phil microphone that you can walk around with it in your hand. So you could be at a podium, because then you're looking right at the jury and bend the microphone back.
Okay.
The other option would be to be at council table.
These are mobile wireless.
Okay, but we don't want lawyers walking around. I mean, I think just jurors, habit would be to get up maybe a little too close. And so I think sort of the judge camp at the federal district court, if you couldn't touch the podium, you got yelled at. And I think that's going to be sort of the rule of thumb here, is that you need to be near the microphone, because just unwittingly, to make a point, you might drift near someone and then folks get uncomfortable. So I think you can grab your hand all you want.
We could do a, what's that? Yeah, I was gonna give a closing.
No, but she's addressing the jury. Yep.
All right. So everybody's heard the state get up and give his presentation of the case, and it was lovely. My client didn't do it. You can't prove that he did it. They can't prove that he did it, and you should find him not guilty.
Short and sweet, Ms. Hanson. Thank you. Tonight.
Yeah, ready?
When you're ready, sir.
Members of the jury, I don't know what the defense was just talking about. We never gave a closing. We reserved. So anyway, you heard the victim. You saw the video. He was on the ground. You saw Mr. Luther do it. There's no reasonable doubt that the victim did it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. I'll dispense with the charge to the jury. I know that's the highlight for everyone in the jury trial. We intend for the first few trials to actually have courtroom 1C to be the jury room. So jurors will, when we need to take a break, there's often a question about, well, what are we going to do with sidebars or something like that? If we need to get the jury, not during voir dire, but when we're down to 14 to 12 folks, when we take a break, there has to be a discussion outside the presence of the jury, or it's time for them to deliberate. 1C, the whole courtroom, that's their jury room. They will be socially distant there. And we would be in 1D to work through whatever we need to work through. There's some other logistics we don't need to cover today, but just as you're talking with your colleagues when it comes time to have a trial, things like exhibits going back with the jury. We may call upon both sides to have 12 copies, if not of a 10,000 page set of medical records, but if that, making it up, if the medical examiner's report were somehow admitted and went back to the jury, we might say that you need to have 12 copies of it. So each juror has his or her own set of documents, and they're not having to share things. Can't do that with a murder weapon. So if there's a gun, we'll need to work through how they handle it. And it probably means a box of gloves back in the jury room if the gun was something that went back to the jury room. But there are some mechanics that you'll be working out with the judge handling your case that may be slightly different depending on the judge, but we're trying to make this as uniform as possible across those judges who are at this time comfortable and willing to preside over a jury trial. And a lot of what we tested out today are those uniform, we're going to try to do it in that manner. I think we've reached the closing point. I'll take questions in a minute, but I do want to thank all of you. I want to thank Captain Gates and his team. They briefed a squad to be ready. And I mean Colonel Moffat and his team, so we're clear, but I didn't see him in here. So let him know I say Colonel Moffat. to have folks ready at 185, and we'll do a hot wash with them at the appropriate time, but they got extra bodies to cover this. Jury services has been working like crazy to make this work. Not just this exercise, but getting summonses to jurors, because we have summonses out. The January 11th trial date is still on. The chief judges for Fulton, DeKalb, Gwinnett, and Cobb will be convening in the first week of January to make the final call about, is it wise to have a trial on January 11th? Cobb County also has a trial set for January 11th. If the plug has to be pulled for that date, that calendar that's already been published will just move to another date. It's not going to be a new set of cases. There'll be all those cases that are still on it, and we'll just move it a few weeks down the road and re-summons folks. But jury services has been working crazy. And finally, last but definitely not least, our IT team. You can see everything that's been going on. And they've been having to juggle all sorts of things. And we try to spell out what we need in advance. And then we're like, hey, could you make it do audio also? For that. So we clearly have some kinks to iron out on the IT/physical positioning, and a lot of value added just by sitting in the middle there. If all you did was sit today, thank you for sitting, because you were able, I can't see if this is here or that's here. So we'll need to figure out where these monitors go. This and 1C will be the home for trials for the foreseeable future. When we expand, it will be doing 2 trials at once, not 18 trials at once, but it'll all be on this first floor because no one has to take an elevator to get to this floor. We can get 30, 40, 90 people onto this first floor, and the only choke point other than the entrance to the courthouse is the escalator, as long as it's working. So this will be where the trials will be happening here, and one of the ones. Eventually, we hope to push trials up to the other floors. It might be that voir dire happens on the first floor, because again, that's where all the bodies need to be. But once you have your jury of 12 to 14, they can go to Judge Newkirk's courtroom, and he can have the trial in his courtroom. How the public can see it will be complicated, and that will involve a live feed probably, because the jurors won't be in the jury box, they'll be in the gallery. And in the courtrooms upstairs, the gallery is pretty much full once you get the jurors in there. But we'll be working through all that. Couldn't do any of this without everyone's assistance and cooperation. So thank you to the clerk's office and everyone else for participating. We can talk about a few things now. I want to let folks go. We will have a internal hot wash, and then I think we'll push out some of our key learnings. And for those who've been Zooming in or YouTubing in, please push your questions or concerns to me or to Judge Klaus or Judge Richardson, and we'll be sure to factor them into the planning that we're doing. With that said, Ms. McCauley, you had something you wanted to share?
Yeah, questions. If the juror are permitted to ask questions, how are we going to handle that?
While they're
Or even while they're deliberating?
Or some crazy judges let jurors ask questions during the trial.